A common problem that Christians and really people in general can run into is reducing God, making him less than he is, or confining him in some way. There are many ways that this is done, and all of them create problems. A frequent issue is a sort of sterilization of God. This creates a narrower perception of him than is accurate, and reduces him to a sort of human idea of holiness that is based on legalism rather than in reality. Hello, and welcome to Geekdom of God. I'm your host, Ciantier, and today I want to talk about 3 unusual ministries that God gave to the Old Testament prophets of Isaiah, Hosea, and Ezekiel. These ministries made these prophets into living metaphors. It turns out that God uses metaphors to explain and or demonstrate various concepts pretty often. So, the first of these metaphor ministries I'm going to talk about today is Isaiah's. It's found in chapter 20, which reads, "In the year that the supreme commander, sent by Sargon, king of Assyria, came to Ashdod and attacked and captured it. At that time the Lord spoke through Isaiah son of Amoz. He said to him, 'Take off the sackcloth from your body and the sandals from your feet.' And he did so, going around stripped and barefoot. Then the Lord said, 'Just as my servant Isaiah has gone stripped and barefoot for 3 years as a sign and portent against Egypt and Cush, so the king of Assyria will lead away, stripped and barefoot, the Egyptian captives and Cushite exiles, young and old, with buttocks bared, to Egypt's shame. Those who trusted in Cush and boasted in Egypt will be dismayed and put to shame. In that day, the people who live on this coast will say, See what has happened to those we relied on, those we fled to for help and deliverance from the king of Assyria? How then can we escape?'" So in this chapter, God instructs Isaiah to go about completely naked. Isaiah obeys, going 3 years completely nude. God instructs him to do this as a sign and portent against Egypt and Cush, an example of what the king of Assyria would do to them. And talk about a conversation starter. But it also points to the authenticity of the message. Why else would Isaiah go about like that for so long if God hadn't instructed him to do so? So what about Hosea? Here's what God instructed him. In Hosea 1:2-3, it says, "When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, 'Go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her, for like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord.' So he married Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son." And also, consider Hosea 3:1-3, which reads, "The Lord said to me, 'Go, show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods and love the sacred raisin cakes.' So I bought her for 15 shekels of silver and about a homer and a lethek of barley. Then I told her, 'You are to live with me many days. You must not be a prostitute or be intimate with any man, and I will behave the same way toward you.'" So here we can see that God instructs the prophet Hosea to marry a woman that would be as faithful to him as the Israelites had been to God. In this way, Hosea's marriage would be a metaphor for God's relationship to Israel, which is very much so fraught with a lot of, shall we say, infidelity. And finally, we have a rather strange period in the life of the prophet Ezekiel. And Ezekiel 4:1-8 describes it thusly. "Now, son of man, take a block of clay, put it in front of you, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it. Then lay siege to it, erect siege works against it, build a ramp up to it, set up camps against it, and put battering rams around it. Then take an iron pan, place it as an iron wall between you and the city, and turn your face toward it. It will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. This will be a sign to the people of Israel. Then lie on your left side, and put the sin of the people of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So, for 390 days you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes, so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of your siege." So in this passage, God orders Ezekiel to make a miniature replica of Jerusalem and play a sort of war game with it, setting up a sort of diorama of what would happen to the city. On top of that, the prophet is constrained to lying on one side for over a year. This would definitely be a conversation starter for sure. I can just about imagine the gossip and rumors that the people would be speaking about the craziness happening in Ezekiel's house. So why do I bring up all of these examples? These are all 3 rather strange ministries. One, a prophet going around completely nude for 3 years as a sign and portent, as a demonstration of what would happen to those in Egypt and Cush. A prophet being told to marry basically a prostitute. And another prophet being told to sort of play miniatures, to build up this whole example of a siege, to build up a model, and then to be constrained to laying on his side for like over a year, like a year and a third or a year and a quarter or something like that. These are all rather odd things. And I bring them up because I think we have a tendency to put God in a sterilized box, kind of a culturally safe, culturally comfortable box. And God doesn't belong in that box. These are ministries that I think are all rather countercultural in many regards. Who would go around for 3 years completely naked as an example to people of what's going to happen? Who would intentionally want to marry a prostitute that's going to be unfaithful to them? Who would lay on their side for over a year building up siege works to demonstrate what's going to happen to the city? These are all very strange things, but they're all ways that God used his prophets to demonstrate what was going to happen. We have to be careful to not reduce the scope or the potential options of what God would do for his ministries. There could be many outlandish things, or what would seem to us to be outlandish at any rate, that God may call people to do. So I bring these ministries up as examples of the sort of things that God has called people to in the past that would just seem really strange or bizarre to us, that would not fit neatly and cleanly into cultural concepts or what we would think of as cultural conventions. God may be calling us to things, perhaps not these sorts of things, but to things that would seem contrary to what culture would dictate a, quote, holy God, unquote, would call us to. But our concepts of holiness may be quite incorrect. So let's be careful to not put God in a culturally sterilized box, to see him as the untamed, almighty creator that he truly is. Until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this week's Geekdom of God podcast. To support this program, go to patreon.com/Ciantier. For more, you can visit geekdomofgod.com. Finally, you can email Ciantier at ciantier@geekdomofgod.com.